Welcome to another C1 Advanced ESL-lounge reading lesson video. Today we will be reading The Paradox of Choice. Let's begin with some vocabulary. Paradox. A seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement that may prove to be true. To paralyze. To make something unable to move or act. Cognitive overload. A situation where the brain receives too much information to process effectively. Abundance, a very large quantity of something. Anxiety, a feeling of worry, nervousness or unease. Implication, a likely consequence of something. To maximize, to make as great as possible. Anticipated, regarded as probable, expected. Post-decision regret, the sense of disappointment one feels after making a choice. Curated. Selected, organized and presented using professional expertise. Empowerment. The process of becoming stronger and more confident. Great. Now you know the key words, let's read the story. Modern Western societies are built on a foundational belief that freedom is intrinsically linked to choice. From the vast selection of cereals in the supermarket to the seemingly infinite library of films on a streaming service, we are told that an abundance of options leads to greater well-being and empowerment. However, a growing body of psychological research suggests that this assumption might be flawed. In fact, it appears that an excess of choice can often lead not to liberation, but to anxiety and decision paralysis. This counterintuitive phenomenon is known as the, quote, paradox of choice. The concept was popularized by American psychologist Barry Schwartz. His research demonstrates that while some choice is undoubtedly better than none, there is a critical point where the sheer volume of options becomes overwhelming, leading to cognitive overload. End of page 1. Let's continue. When faced with too many alternatives, our brains struggle to effectively compare and contrast each one. The mental effort required to make a perfect choice becomes so great that we may opt to make no choice at all. A classic study illustrating this paradox involved a tasting booth for jam in a supermarket. On one day, shoppers were presented with a selection of 24 different jams. On another day, the selection was reduced to just 6. While the larger display attracted more people to the booth, a significantly higher percentage of shoppers actually made a purchase when presented with the smaller, more manageable selection. The abundance of choice in the first scenario, while appealing at first glance, ultimately discouraged commitment. This phenomenon has profound implications for our satisfaction with the choices we do make. End of page 2. Let's continue. Schwartz argues that when we have too many options, we feel a greater pressure to maximize our decision, to find the absolute best. This raises our expectations to an often unrealistic level. Consequently, even if we make a good choice, we are more likely to feel a sense of post-decision regret. We are left wondering if one of the other 100 options might have been marginally better. The modern digital world has amplified this paradox to an unprecedented degree. Dating apps present users with a seemingly endless stream of potential partners, which can undermine the desire to commit to any single one. E-commerce websites allow us to compare thousands of products, turning a simple purchase into hours of research and anxiety. We have more information and more options than ever before, but this doesn't necessarily translate into greater happiness. End of page 3. Let's continue. So what is the solution? It is not to eliminate choice, but to become more mindful of its effects. One strategy is to consciously limit our options. For example, when buying a new camera, one might decide to only research 3 reputable brands, instead of trying to analyze every model on the market. Another approach is to embrace the idea of good enough. Instead of striving for the best possible option, we can learn to be satisfied with a choice that meets our core requirements. In a culture that constantly tells us that more is better, it's a radical act to seek out constraints. Yet, by creating our own curated selections and letting go of the need to maximize every decision, we can reduce the anxiety and regret that often accompany choice. End of page 4. Let's continue. The paradox of choice teaches us a valuable lesson. true freedom might not be about having unlimited options, but about having the wisdom to be content with a good one. Okay, time for a few questions to check your understanding. Question 1. What is the central idea of the paradox of choice? A. Having no choice leads to the greatest happiness. B. The more choices people have, the more empowered they feel. C. The belief that more choice equates to more freedom is fundamentally misguided. D. The ability to choose is a skill that is becoming less common in society. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. The text explains that the assumption that an abundance of options leads to empowerment might be flawed, and can in fact lead to anxiety. Question 2. What was the key finding of the jam tasting study? A. A limited range of options proved more conducive to a final purchase. B. The quality of the jam was the most important factor for customers. C. Customers spent more time deliberating when faced with the larger selection. D. Customers expressed greater satisfaction after choosing from the larger selection. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. The text states a quote, significantly higher percentage of shoppers actually made a purchase when faced with the smaller selection. Question 3. According to Schwartz, why does an abundance of choice often lead to quote, post-decision regret? A. Because having many options lowers our expectations of the outcome. B. Because the mental effort of choosing makes us too tired to enjoy the result. C. Because heightened expectations make it almost impossible for the chosen option to be satisfying. D. Because the initial cognitive overload makes it difficult to appreciate the outcome. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. The text explains that having too many options raises our expectations to an often unrealistic level, making post-decision regret more likely. Question 4. How has the modern digital world affected this paradox? A. It has reduced the number of choices we face on a daily basis. B. It has significantly worsened the issue by making a huge range of alternatives readily available. C. It has made it easier to compare options, thus reducing cognitive overload. D. It has shifted the problem from the world of commerce to that of social media. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. The text states that the digital world has, quote, amplified this paradox to an unprecedented degree, giving examples like dating apps and e-commerce. Question 5. What is one of the practical solutions suggested by the author? A. To always ask an expert to make choices for you. B. To spend more time researching each option to ensure the best outcome. C. To always choose the most popular or highly rated option. D. To make a conscious decision to investigate only a few possibilities. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. The text gives the example of deciding to only research 3 reputable brands as a strategy. Question 6. What does the author suggest is the valuable lesson from the paradox of choice? A. That real freedom comes from appreciating what you have chosen. B. That modern society should return to a time with fewer consumer goods. C. That making quick decisions is always better than spending a long time researching. D. That making choices requires more cognitive effort than was previously thought. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. The text concludes that true freedom is about having, quote, the wisdom to be content with a good one, which means appreciating your choice. Let's quickly summarize the lesson. On this screen you can review the main points of the text and the key vocabulary. Finally, here are a few discussion questions. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching this ESL Lounge video. Don't forget to subscribe for more lessons, and we'll see you in the next one.